Thank you especially Dr. Hostetler for being with us today. And I'd like to introduce Ken Burns and John Axe, who are facilitators of this course, who will introduce you and for your session today.
Okay, this is John Axe, hi, and I'll be introducing you, Mark. By way of introduction, let me read from an extensive biographical sketch that Mark has provided. He got a bachelor's degree of science in biology from Purdue University and a master's and PhD in zoology both at University of Florida, where he is now professor in the Department of Wildlife Ecology and Conservation. He conducts research and outreach on how urban landscapes can be designed and managed to conserve biodiversity. Partnering with policymakers, environmental consultants, and developers, he works to establish modern communities that incorporate conservation design and management strategies to enhance the urban biodiversity. He co-founded the UF's program for resource-efficient communities and collaborates with an interdisciplinary team of scientists and graduate students to foster green development projects nationally and internationally. And he has produced and directed an award-winning TV series titled Living Green. So let me turn it over at this point to Mark Hostetler.
Thanks, John. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. All right. To see where everybody, I guess I can see a few of you have your video off, that's okay. But originally I'm from Indiana. Anybody from the Midwest? Ah, I see one hand, two hand. Yep. So, you know, I lived there all my life and I didn't know what winters were like really until coming to Florida. So we're right in the midst of it. It's quite beautiful. So without further ado, what I'm going to talk about today, let me see, I'll share my screen. So I think Julie sent out a little email while I'm talking. If you have not done so, if you have your smartphone next to you, you can download the app called iNaturalist, and it's free. It's from either the Android or the iOS world. So you can just go on there while I'll talk. And at the end, we're going to do a lot of activity with iNaturalist. And I talk a little bit about the City Nature Challenge that's coming up in April, May, which all of you can participate in. And also I'm going to talk about a new, well, it's not new, it's a revised, updated Osprey camera that's now located on the University of Florida campus that is streaming the nesting and hopefully raising of chicks behavior throughout the season. So I can see some of you. How many of you have heard of iNaturalist? Okay, so iNaturalist is one of the premier citizen science platforms that is very easy to use. Well, after you get using it, it's very easy to use. There's a little hiccups right at the beginning. It's used all around the world. If you travel anywhere in the world, the iNaturalist has observations that have been recorded. And the other thing unique about iNaturalist is that it will allow you to identify what you took a picture of. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the City Nature Challenge. And Oak-Hammock is a perfect place. I looked online. We don't have a lot of observations from your community. One of the challenges to observe all throughout Alachua County, all the different areas. So we would appreciate and think it's very valuable that you would have uploads during this challenge. And I'll give you some background about Ospreys and the Osprey camera. And then I'm going to, maybe if we have time, we'll demonstrate a little bit about how to use iNaturalist, and maybe we'll stream some of the Osprey cameras so you can see what's going on right now. Unfortunately, I was just on there the birds that just left. We'll see if they come back onto the nest. They have not laid their eggs yet, so they're kind of on and off the nest quite a bit. So iNaturalist, like I said, is a citizen science monitoring platform. It was created by the California Academy of Sciences and National Geographic Society. It's been around for 18, 20 years. It's a social network where people can share recordings of species and learn about species, and most importantly, identify species. So if you ever been walking around the property at Okamic and you say, what is that plant? Or what's that spider in the corner there? And you take a picture of it, you can upload it and it will identify it for you. The City Nature Challenge is organized by the California Natural History Museum, and this is our third year doing it in Alachua County, and we've had pretty good participation over the last few years, especially during the pandemic where everyone was at home. Then you could use and participate in this challenge remotely in your yard and neighborhood. And it's really a fascinating look. Even myself, when I, as an ecologist, I started going around my neighborhood and taking pictures. I learned so much about the plants and animals that are in and around our neighborhood that even as an ecologist, I didn't know were there. So I'm going to go over, this is the 2020 challenge. Just to give you some background about it, it's typically a 3-day challenge. And when we did this in 2020, there were 240 cities that participated from around the world. We had 821,000 observations in 3 days, 32,000 species, 40,000 people. And Alachua County, even per capita, without looking at per capita, we were ranked 21 across the world. And so we do pretty well. We always enjoy this time to, as naturalists, to get out there and observe the species around us. So here's kind of the summary. This is from the iNaturalist website from that 2020 challenge. You can see all the observations and the species, and we had close to 400 observers. My goal this year is to get to 500. I just want slowly to see that number of observers participate. Here are some of the observations. So these are photos taken by people from around Alachua County, like these, the dot line moth. I mean, it's really fascinating, some of the things that people will show up. Of course, you know, the gray squirrel is ubiquitous throughout Gainesville, but red fox is also quite, I don't know how any of you seen the red fox in Okamic? I know they're around there. So they are in that area. You know, birds like the purple gallinule and the limpkin. This is from Sweetwater. You know, the herps, amphibians, you know, the broad-headed skink, the spadefoot toad. These are all local animals. I don't know if you've seen these in Okamic. I know you have broadhead skinks for sure. The spadefoot toad, they're there, but they usually come out after a really heavy rain. So like you would have to have rain for 2 or 3 days, and then they come out in droves. Plants, of course, like the passion flower and the spiderwort. Both of these are native plants in and around Alachua County. And my favorite is the molds and fungi. I didn't know much about slime molds or mushrooms for that matter. And this one on the left, it is literally called dog vomit slime mold, and for good reason. And it is quite apparent throughout our natural areas. I see it all over now once I know what it was. These wood ear mushrooms, they're edible. Again, don't don't eat a mushroom unless you have someone positively identify it. But there's a lot of edible and inedible mushrooms throughout our parks and yards. So when's the next challenge? So our next challenge is April 29th through May 2nd. And what we do is you use your smartphone, or you can use a camera that records the date and geolocation. So where you actually take the picture, you have to make sure those positioning is on, because one of the important things is when you upload a photo the photo is in a space in the world. So you'll have to make sure your GPS, I'll talk more about that. So you take pictures from midnight, April 29th to midnight, May 2nd. And people think, well, at night, what can I take pictures of? Well, there's lots of moths and beetles and all kinds of things that are attracted to lights around your buildings, and geckos that come out, in the middle of the night, you can take pictures of. Then you can upload them afterwards between May 3rd and May 8th. And then a lot of naturalists like myself get on there and give identification. So that's one of the beauty about iNaturalist, is that if you don't know what you're taking a photo of and you upload it, iNaturalist does two things. One, it does machine learning, so it compares your photo to all the photos taken in the area and gives you a recommendation of what you have just taken a photo of. But sometimes it doesn't know. There's not enough photos of like mushrooms and well, there's a lot of dog vomit, slime mold, but not other mold. So then you put in the observation, just, it's some type of plant or some type of animals. And then naturalists such as myself and others get on there and help you identify it. So that was a brief kind of overview of iNaturalist, and we'll go through a little exercise at the end just to show you how powerful this program is for anyone, anywhere in the world to use. Now, the next thing is the Osprey camera. We just, after 2 years of trying to find the best nests and getting permissions at the University of Florida, if any of you work at University of Florida, you know about getting permissions to do anything can take a while. So we went through many, many iterations, and we finally found the perfect pole. Well, it's perfect enough. Let's just put it that way. It's up high. It's in the intramural softball field that's the 4 fields that's just behind the Southwest Rec Center. There's 2 nests there, and we put a camera on one of them. The picture you show there is, you see there is an actual picture that was taken a week ago from that camera. So what is it about ospreys? Well, they're pretty unique animals. They become more and more urban, particularly since we've got rid of DDT, which affected ospreys quite significantly in terms of their reproductive success. But ospreys tend to gravitate towards shallow fishing pond grounds. They don't go more than 3 feet under the water. They're not like a deep diver like some of the other birds can be. So we have a lot of shallow lakes in and around Gainesville, and that's why we have lots and lots of ospreys. They're one of the only hawks that almost exclusively eat live fish. And so, other hawks like red tails, red shoulders, bald eagle, or other raptors, this is the one species that only exclusively eats live fish. The bald eagles will eat fish as well, but they eat other things, carrion, small mammals, etc. And the nests are quite huge. This is a picture of the nest that's currently on there. I would say it's probably been there for maybe 5 years. It's getting quite big. They continually add to it and mess with it. And so they're approximately 10 to 13 feet deep and 3 to 6 feet in diameter. And you could actually sit up there. I wouldn't recommend going up to the top of an 80-foot pole, but if you wanted to, you could actually sit in this nest. I saw this behavior if you go early enough, like early February when the ospreys come back. So the ospreys, most of them migrate to South America during the winter, and then they come back to the same nest typically, and the males get there first. And they do this interesting behavior where they clasp fish, or they kind of hover over the nest, making all kinds of these slow, shallow swoops at the nest site, just kind of claiming that's their nest and showing the female, hey, we got a nest here. And it's very interesting to see. It's if you ever get a chance. I've been a while since I've been to Okamic. Are there like poles that are taller than 15 feet, 20 feet.
John or Ken, you might know that. I'm not sure.
Well, anyway, has anybody seen any ospreys on your campus? Yeah. Has anybody, is there a nest on your campus? What I would do, just say, this is yes, this is no. Okay, well, anyway, you can look around for it. It would have to be a tall light that's big enough to hold a pretty big nest. So it may or may not have that in your area. So they typically, they have not laid their eggs yet. So this pair is on the nest, showing all the behaviors that they're going to lay their eggs. I would predict probably by March 8th, we'll get the first egg, and they can lay 1 to 4 eggs, typically 3 or 2. They only have 1 brood a year. So, you know, they put all their effort on these eggs, and they don't hatch. Well, that's it until next year. So once they lay March 8th, it's about 36 to 40 days for incubation, and they hatch, and then another 50 to 55 days that they bring fish in and feed the chicks, and they get big enough, and then they fly off the nest and fledge. Now, I mentioned that previously, it has really been a success since the ban of DDT. It's like that, and bald eagles are one of the primary kind of the top predators that are affected by DDT. And they've really come back. I mean, on campus at University of Florida, I estimate there's like 15 osprey nests, and that's only on the University of Florida campus. They're all throughout Gainesville and Alachua County. So here's another shot of the camera. And what I'm going to do is skip over and just see what we can see what's going on live at the camera. So I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to, while I'm finding the site, are there any questions from anyone? Go ahead, just unmute yourself and ask a question.
There's an osprey nest on a cell tower in Jonesville. Been there for years, and it's still active. But there are no lakes that I know of nearby that would have live fish.
Well, they have a 10-mile radius. So we're in luck. We have the female on the nest right now. Can everyone see this? So I'll expand that. So they can travel up to 10 miles to get fish or more. They like to be near lakes, but yeah, they'll travel up to 10 miles to get fish. So this female, I can tell it's the female because I've been watching them for a while. She tends to have across her breast, you can't see it, but more dark plumage, and the male is completely white, and that little band on the top of her head is a little bit darker and wider than the male. It's been interesting to watch over the past 2 weeks because this was all sticks, but I've noticed this behavior as you get closer and closer to laying egg. You see more Spanish moss and leaves and soft things that she's preparing right now. Now, I can actually move this camera, but they hear it, they respond to it. So I'm waiting for them to lay the eggs, but there's an osprey nest 200 feet, just if you look at the top of the screen on another pole that I can zoom in. So I'm going to monitor 2 different nests during the nesting period. It's been pretty fascinating. We'll see if the male comes in. Usually there's the telltale sign for the female osprey knowing that the male has a fish and about to bring a fish is she starts screaming at the top of her lungs. I can't describe it. I see a hand up from Julie. Go ahead.
Well, I just had a question. Did you say you put the nest there?
No, the nest's been there. So they build the nest all throughout. We just put the camera there. So I was looking for a pole that already had a nest, and then we put the camera there. Now, imagine trying to put a camera up 80 feet in the air. It was quite, it's quite a I hired a company, electrical company. They were fantastic, but they'd never done anything like this before. So we had to put a 6-foot aluminum pole, attach it to the struts, and then the camera sits on top of it. In fact, it's kind of only if you were to go about 8 feet to the bottom of the screen, and that's where the pole is, and then about 8 feet up, and that's where the camera is. But yeah, literally I can swivel it, go left, right, up, down, and I'll do that once they lay their eggs and they'll get used to the noise, but I just don't want to spook them at this point.
And because they're so high, are they just indifferent to all the activity below? None of the athletics or anything?
Yeah, they just get used to it. The sound of, you'll hear at night, the softball is live and you'll hear all the students down there screaming and stuff like this and stuff. Yeah, they're just used to it. Yeah, I can hear what that is their, one of the big machinery that they use for mowing is backing up.
You see them along as you drive down 441 or I-75, the huge, I guess they're electrical poles alongside, and there's one that every year you see the osprey and they're young, but little heads are poking up above them.
Yeah, they ospreys typically mate for life, although there's some exceptions to that, and they typically do have high nest fidelity, so they always come back to the same nest.
Do they get some heat from the lights that they light?
They do, and that is a sort of a danger because it's been reported that when I've actually it's true that the nests sometimes catch on fire. But UF is in the process of replacing all these really hot lights with LEDs, but it's going to be a little bit of an issue because they're going to have to take down that whole structure, put up the LED thing, and I'm going to take the nesting material and put it back, and hopefully they'll rebuild there. But that's going to happen after they leave. So they leave around July. So probably August, September, they'll take the pole down, put up the LEDs, and I'll put up the nesting material, and hopefully they'll come back and re-nest there.
Now you're saying that ospreys only eat live fish.
Yes.
All right. So the male brings the live fish to this female. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, she will also fish once the chicks hatch. So they do take turns. But right now, it's sort of the whole courtship behavior is that she's just saying, hey, can you catch fish for me? And so that's what he does. He's out there catching fish.
He brings them in pieces, or I mean, he eats. So, or does he come? Does he come and carry the whole fish and drop it there?
Well, that's where you get to watch. He does a little bit of both. Sometimes it's half a fish, sometimes it's the tail, sometimes it's the head, sometimes it's the whole fish. And usually you know that he's eating it because he's on another pole and she's screaming the whole time at him, saying, come on. So you'll get to see all this on camera. I mean, this is 24/7. It's infrared at night. So even at night, you can watch their behaviors. Now, just a little plug. I know you have my email. Of course, this is fairly expensive. And so our department is asking donations from it's really around the world. We get observers from Pakistan, everywhere, to contribute a little bit because it costs a little bit to keep this camera going. But you can see that she's just kind of, I mean, this nest has looked totally different 2 weeks ago. It was mainly sticks. And now it's moss and lichen, and looks like a little bit of some type of dried palm frond there. And what I do is I just have it on in the background. And when she starts screaming, then I know something's happening. And so then I come over and look at it. And it's I'm surprised she's being so quiet. Of course, wildlife is wildlife, just this morning. She was pretty vocal, but she's about to. That's the other thing about ospreys. They don't dirty their nest. They eject outside their nest, which was both amusing and kind of not a good thing when there was a nest at the old UF baseball stadium down third baseline, and it was sort of a joke. Everybody went there. There was a osprey spray zone that everyone sat underneath that osprey nest, and so people would say, "Hey, this is such good seeds. Why isn't anyone here?" And then they realize, well, they're getting sprayed. Usually fish bones and, well, osprey poop is going over the side of that nest.
Do both of them contribute to the building of the nest or the enhancing the nest, or is this just the female's job, or does the male do this? What?
The male does the most of it, but the female does help out, brings in stuff. You saw her kind of positioning things around, and you can see the little dark feathers on her breast there. That's the female. When you see the male come in, he won't have that. It'll be all white. But they both help. They both do the female does the bulk of the brooding, but the male also helps out because the female goes out and fishes as well. I have another hand up from Barb. Go ahead, Barb.
Yeah, when I was up in Vermont doing snow goose research, we had osprey nests we were checking out, and when it came time to teach the young, they seem to work on one of them at a time. Get one really going and teach it and get it fledged, and then the other one, if there was enough food and time, they worked that way. Have you seen that here?
I haven't seen it directly. I know that they do, quote unquote, teach them that way. The one thing, once they're off the nest, we don't see them. They're off doing whatever. And we're going to have a name the parents and the chick or chicks later on, probably May or June. We did that one year. It was it was interesting. All the names came around for the three birds. But yeah, the parents, of course, it's somewhat innate, but they do have to learn to fish. So they watch the mom and dad, and when you see them bring the fish in when they're really small, they hatch, they're this big, and you're like, how are they eating the fish bone? They eat everything, and they're, I just sit there and I'm just thinking about the fish bone that caught my throat one year. I couldn't get out for 2 weeks, but it's not that way with ospreys. They have pretty good innards to take care of the fish bones. Any other questions about the osprey?
How many years did you say this same couple has been coming back here?
I'm not sure about that. So that's 1 year I wanted to put, imagine trying to catch these big birds and put a radio tag or a satellite tag on them. It's pretty difficult, but that would be interesting. I'm just guesstimating. I've been playing softball there for years, and I know this nest has been there for at least 5-6 years. So that's just my guess.
What is the lifespan of these birds?
Well, I mean, it's pretty long. It can be 25 years. It just depends on, a couple things, of course. But yeah, it can be pretty long.
Do they have any natural enemies other than man?
Great horned owl. So a great horned owl is big enough to take one of these birds out. And that's what they really get agitated when owls are around. So great horned owl is probably the only predator of these birds. Of course, if they're on the ground, then you have other things, bobcats and cougars and stuff like that. But they're typically not preyed upon. Only the great horned owl.
I mean, we have some bald eagles in the area as well. There's no issue between the two of them.
Oh, well, there's issues. There's definitely issues. So the osprey is pretty efficient at catching fish. There's been research that it goes down in the water, 85% of the time it comes up with a fish. They're really good. As soon as they catch a fish, if a bald eagle sees them, they chase them and make them drop the fish. So yeah, there's issues between them. So sometimes you'll see bald eagles hanging out waiting for the ospreys to catch a fish, and then it's a race to the tree line. Who can get there first? So yeah, there's some definite issues between the birds, and they can steal their chicks, so they'll guard their nests against bald eagles. Bald eagles are terrible fishers. They do catch fish, but they're not as good as the ospreys.
I heard it said that a bald eagle who has a fish, carrying a fish in flight, can't release it. Is that true?
That's true. Yeah. So it doesn't happen often. One of the dangers is that the bald eagle going down, grabbing onto a fish bigger than itself and gets dragged underwater. That has happened before. But, that's pretty rare. they kind of know what they're fishing for. Oh, it's not only stable, increasing. They're probably one of the most common predators. Well, next to red-shoulders and red-tailed hawks, they're one of the most common birds of prey in and around urban areas in the southeastern. So yeah, they're very common. No conservation issues at this time.
It just seems we're seeing less of them in the Florida Keys than years ago.
The only thing about wildlife, it's sometimes they move around. So they may leave an area, come back 10 years later. So this happened out at Cedar Key, Seahorse Key. They had this huge colony of pelicans that were nesting, and then all of a sudden one year they were gone. And everyone was like, where'd they go? And no one really knows, but it's just, wildlife, they're kind of like humans, sometimes unpredictable. Well, if there's not any other questions, I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about iNaturalist, but I'll have it on in the background, and if the mail comes in, I'll let you know. Okay, so how many of you, and how many of you have the iNaturalist on their phones now?
I do.
Okay, many of you aren't sharing your screen, so I have no idea. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is kind of go through and talk a little bit about the program and show you some neat things that you can do. And then maybe at the end, I can do something with the iPhone. It's hard to do over Zoom, but we'll see what we can do. So I'm going to share my screen again. This time I'll go to iNaturalist. Everyone see that now? Okay, so this iNaturalist, this is my account. The first thing you need to do is join it. So you create a username and a password, and then you're part of the iNaturalist community. It's free to do that. And if I go to my observations, I'll click on that. And this is worldwide. So you're going to see where I've been. I have almost 2,000 observations, most of them in, let me move that there. Most of them in the US, but here's some in Vancouver, in Japan. And if I move the screen, I'm going to have a bunch in New Zealand here because I take a class each year for study abroad to New Zealand. So you can record anywhere in the world your observation. And the neat thing you can do, you can even explore things that are happening right in any area. So let's explore where I am right now. I'm at home. Oh, okay. So you can see there's a lot of observations there when you look at the global. But I'm going to put in Gainesville, Florida. And we go there. And you can see it populated with the boundary of Gainesville. These green are plants, red are arthropods, like that spider that's right up there, and blue are birds. And so I'm going to zoom in even a little bit. Let's go to Okamic. Let's see about you guys. I bet it won't. Well, no, it's not. It's not a town, so I had to do it manually. So let's go back to Gainesville. So what I'm going to do is, the neat thing about this, you can zoom in, tool around. I know you guys are located off of Williston Road, so I can zoom in here. That's Sweetwater's Wetland Park. There's Squirrel Ridge. That 34th. Then there's Idlewild, so it must be right in here. Oh, you got some observations there. It's taking a little bit. I'm sorry, my wireless. Isn't that right there where my, isn't that Okamic right here? Julie?
It looks like it because I see Idlewild and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Okamic.
Yes,
so
it
you do
is.
have some observations. So here, someone's been using it. So I'll click on this one. There's a pink rain lily someone has. There's a mud dauber wasp. Remember I talked about along the buildings there. Here is a katydid. In fact, what I would do if here's some snails or mushrooms. Mushrooms. I would get on there, and you can go to this, like this person right here. I'll click on that, and typically you find out their username, send them an email, Rebecca B, and see if she's in Okamic, and she can help you with if you have any questions about iNaturalist. So here you could go to her, click on her name, send her an email, and just say, hey, I'm at Okamic. Are you at Okamic? I want to learn more about iNaturalist. Let's go back here. Let's see. Does anyone watching it right now have, whoops, I didn't want to do that, have uploaded any iNaturalist sightings? Just raise your hand if you have. Oh, I hear her squawking. Let me see what's happening here. That's the noise that, oh, something's going on here. Hold on. I don't know if I want to share this. This is copulation going on.
they made it. I have it on my
Yes.
other screen too.
Yeah, they're mating right now. So that was the male that just came in. Here, I'll share it now. They're both on the nest. Can you see the male now? All right, so the male's on the right, the female's on the left, and that's the female hollering. Usually that means sort of like, yeah, go get some fish, if I was to interpret that.
Came in empty-handed, that's why.
That's exactly right. It's funny, you can anthropomorphize, everything, the nesting behavior, all this, but it's pretty fascinating to watch these birds over the next few months, especially the fish that they bring in. They bring all kinds of fish. You're thinking maybe it's just brim or, bass or tilapia, but they bring all kinds of things. And, all right, so I'll stop sharing that. So to find it, you just go to Osprey, CAM, University of Florida, and it'll take you right there. I'll go back to where I was iNaturalist. Okay, the one thing about the iNaturalist is you have to be sure that you have your GPS on. In other words, if you ever use it to drive or locate something, I better turn this. This bird is really noisy. Hold on a second.
Mark, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, I have an iNaturalist on, and I put in a photo that I took this morning at Sweetwater Park. I had ones with my camera. They obviously they're not saying where, but I took one with my phone, and I tried to put it in, and it gave the latitude and longitude, but it says unable to
Right.
find location name. What do I do? It was at
When you say
Sweetwater.
it's unable to find location name, do you
Yeah.
mean the iNaturalist is saying that?
That's right.
Okay, so let me go through an example here. Maybe this will help. So can everyone see
Thanks.
that crazy bird? Hold on a sec. Let me see if I can turn this off. Okay. So now we're back on. You see the mushrooms there, right? Everyone sees that.
Mhm.
Okay. Now I got it. There we go. All right. So I'm going to show you how to upload something, and maybe this will answer your question. So let's say you took a photo. There's several ways you can upload a photo. If you have a smartphone, you can do it in the field. You just open the app, take a picture, upload it right there, and it takes a little bit with satellite data. The other way to do it is do like a digital camera or even your iPhone. Just take like 30, 40 pictures, put them on your computer, and then upload them that way. And so that's what I'm going to show you right now. So how you upload them from your computers, you go up to the upload button, you hit upload. And then you drag or choose files. I'm going to choose them. And now I have to remember where I put I know I had some test photos somewhere. Hold on. I think I have them on my other computer. I'm at home now. So let me see if I have a photo I can do here. Hold on a second. So I have a bunch of images here, and I can select one, and I'm just going to select one of them. Let's see. I'll do that one. I open it. Okay, so it's loading. If you can see that, it's loading the metadata. So what it's doing, it's making sure that you have a GPS coordinate associated with it, and also a date. So if you look right below here, there's a date. This was taken April 30th, 2021, and it's near Woodland Terrace, Gainesville. Now, if it's asking for a name, you may not have to know the name. It's just the location, the latitude and longitude is sufficient. Now, the interesting thing you can do is you click on that species name and it's loading suggestions, and it's going to give me what they think it is. So we're pretty sure it's in this subfamily, cypresses and cedars and junipers and allies. But then it gives a couple other suggestions down here. Now, if you're not familiar with that plant, then what I would suggest doing is put in like the higher order taxa, like family or genus or whatever, and then upload it. You submit it right up here. Look on the upper right of my screen, and you submit. I'm not going to submit it, but you submit the observation, and then naturalists get on there and help you identify it. Did that answer your question, Barb?
I'll work on it.
It's just playing around with it, you know. The one thing I've found is the app on your phone, when you're uploading a lot of observations, can be a little clunky. It's better to copy and paste in the folder. And let me give you, I'll do another one here. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to add some more. So let's say I add, what is this? Okay, let's add all these. So, oh, those aren't, I don't think those are GPSed. Let's try this. Oh, maybe they are. We'll find out. Okay. So I'm uploading all these species here, and it's now loading the metadata, and it's looking to see, is there a date associated with it? Is there a location? Now, my suspicion is these photos I got from other people, so that it doesn't have a date or location. So there's two ways you can rectify that. One, if they're all the same date and location, you can do it up here on the left where I'm circling and do it all of them. Or you can do it for each one. So for example, for this little potato beetle here, I can put in a date. I could say that's the date that I took it, and I can put in a location, and you can search Gainesville, Florida. And then I could reduce, I can figure out where it is in Gainesville I took that. So you can manually put in the location and the date for any observation, but it just takes a while. So it's better to have a camera that does it automatically. So when you upload it, so I'm going to remove all these. Well, I got to select all of them. Any questions about this that I've gone through?
This is neat. Recently we had some residents do a presentation on spring birds around Okemuk. And I'm looking at this, and it just brought up common animals nearby, and all their birds are in here. So it's just neat to see these connections.
Yeah.
I've never
So you can upload. Birds are a little harder. You got to have a zoom on there, but you can do birds. I'm going to upload these. Usually birds are identified within an hour. So if you don't know the species, there's enough birders that get on this site that identify it for you. Plants, maybe a day, maybe longer. If you take pictures of mushrooms, take them of the top and then underneath the gills. So it's hard to identify mushrooms just by one photo. You can upload for the same observation up to four photos. Any other questions? I'm going to get out of this. So here's something, Julie. What I could do is actually create a project for Okemuk. Now, the reason why a project is better than just, everyone uploading is that you would have to know everyone in the area to see what they have uploaded. But if I make a project, all those uploads are collected under the project, and you can go to one area and see all the photos that have been taken by people in Okemuk. So like for example, I'll take you to a project like the Girl Scout troop. I can create a project like this. It'll be called Okemuk, whatever you want to call it. And then all the observations are underneath there. So then we can do that. So I can do that at a later date, Julie, and I'll send it around. So if there's not any further, here, I'll stop sharing this. If there's not any further questions, please remember that City Nature Challenge on April 29th, April 29th to May 2nd. It's a great opportunity, and you have between now and then to practice and upload as many photos as you can for Okemuk. The more you upload and identify, the more the machine learning gets at identifying the species in your community.
John Axe, do you want to unmute and go ahead and ask?
Yes, hi. We have a number of wild species of animals at Okemuk that we see often. We have deer.
Mm-hmm.
We have had bears,
right,
come in our backyard and knock over the bird feeder stations and get some food. But the thing that we have not been successful with during my time here, which has been for about 8 years, is bats. we went to the bat zoo in Alachua County, and they had an expert come out and look at our bat houses and recommended some ways to relocate them and so on. We did all that. And as far as I know, no bats have come.
Yeah. Well, that's the typical thing with wildlife. You you think you're providing everything, but you might be missing something. So for example, the bat houses at UF, when they were first established back in 1990, I think 4,
Yeah.
they removed the bats from the Percy Stadium, put them in the bat house, left them in there for 2 days, 3 days, played bat music, everything.
Right.
And then they let them out, and they were gone for 3 years.
Yeah.
So they thought it was a complete failure. Then slowly they began coming back. And then all of a sudden they had to build another bat house. I mean, there's like 250,000 bats in these bat houses now. So that took from 1994 till now, whatever that is, 26, 28 years. So how long have your bat houses been up?
Well, we've had bat houses continuously all the time I've been here, but I think they were relocated 5 years ago, maybe. And I occasionally go around looking for bat droppings, and I'm not quite sure how professionally I do that. But as far as I can tell, we have no bats anymore.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I mean, looking at Okamic, it's kind of. I mean, you are sort of near some water bodies because these bats, those homes that most people build the bat houses for Mexican free-tail bats or brown bats, some evening bats. That's the 3 species. They're the ones that nest in cavities or reside in cavities. So have you ever seen them flying around your light bulbs at night?
I don't think so. When we were in Citrus County, we saw them flying around our lights all the time. I haven't noticed them here.
Yeah, well, that's the first thing I would do is just check our bats in the area. So just see if they're flying around, catching insects and stuff like that. Because if you don't see them, yeah, they're not going to find the bat houses.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, no harm leaving it up. Maybe some year that one bat gets a crazy idea and goes over to your community and finds that place, so you never know.
Definitely have enough mosquitoes to keep them fed.
Oh, some of us would dispute that.
How many of the bats would you guess are carrying rabies?
Well, so it's a low percentage. The one thing I would highly recommend not doing is pick up any bat that's on the ground. So any bat on the ground is typically sick, maybe with rabies, maybe something else. So those type of things, I would definitely not ever pick up a bat, but it's a really low percentage. It's less than 1%. But again, that 1% of 250,000, that's a lot of bats. So if you see him sick or on the ground, just don't touch him. That's about the only way.
I was told one time by somebody who may have known what he was talking about, that when a bat comes in to hang up in the house or the cave or wherever they are, that the bat doesn't go to the periphery, but it sort of worms its way right into the center of the mass. And when it does that, every bat within reach bites them, probably near the rear end. And the issue is that if you have one bat carrying rabies, and it's systemic, that's a terrific way to spread the virus around.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know exactly the transmission from bat to bat, how that works, or how many.
Well, it's in bat guano, we know that.
Yeah, but how it, I mean, I know when they do random sampling of bats, it's around 1% of the ones caught. So the one thing I would do is just never pick up a sick bat or anything that's on the ground or on, it's probably not feeling good. So I wouldn't pick it up. And they'll never fly in your hair. They have incredible echolocation capability.
No, some of us don't worry about that much.
I wasn't going to say that. So yeah, you don't have to worry about them hitting you. They're really incredibly good at navigating. They can fly in between twigs. So yeah.
We stayed in a hotel in southern France, which is an old hotel built into the ramparts of the village. And the Italian lady we were with started running down the steps because she was very afraid that the bat that was flying around her was going to get in her hair.
Yeah. No, you don't have to worry about that. They'll avoid you at all costs. Now, the only thing, if you ever go to the bat house to watch the bats come out, hundreds of thousands of bats, don't have your mouth open while looking up.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, good talking with you all. I'll send Julie that project link that everyone can join, and then all their uploads will upload up to that project.
Mark,
Thank you
thank you
very
very
much,
much,
sir.
Mark. It's been
Yeah,
terrific.
and watch the Ospreys. It should be fun.
RKOU1, thanks so much. This was
Yeah,
great.
we'll see you.